Good morning, Landis community. Thank you to Kathy for the beautiful music this morning and to Hunter for providing the AV support. I'd like to begin this morning by reading from Acts chapter 9. On the third week of Eastertide, the lectionary passages were talking about life after death and included some examples of resurrection. One of the stories was the story of Dorcas, and so I'd like to begin by reading that story this morning out of Acts chapter 9. Now in Joppa there was a disciple named Tabitha, which in translation means Dorcas. She was continually doing good deeds and acts of charity. At that time she became sick and died. And when they had washed her body, they placed it in an upstairs room. And because Lydda was near Joppa, when the disciples heard that Peter was there, they sent 2 men to him and urged him, "Come to us without delay." So Peter got up and went with them. And when he arrived, they brought him to the upper room. All the widows stood beside him, crying, showing him the tunics and other clothing that Dorcas used to make while she was with them. But Peter sent them all outside, knelt down and prayed. Turning to the body, he said, "Tabitha, get up." Then she opened her eyes, and when she saw Peter, she sat up. He gave her his hand and helped her get up. And then he called the saints and widows and presented her alive. This became known throughout all Joppa, and many believed in the Lord. So Peter stayed many days in Joppa with a man named Simon a tanner. This is one scene that I remember vividly from my Sunday school materials as a child. I remember the illustration of a bright, sunlit room with Peter extending his hand to Dorcas as he raises her to life. In the background, he is surrounded by many exuberant faces as they witness Dorcas's being raised to life. Dorcas, we are told, was full of good works and acts of charity. The wording indicates that she gave as much as her time and energy would probably allow. Probably there was room for little else to fit in. She was compassionate toward the cause of the widows in particular. And as we know from an earlier chapter, the needs of the widows in that culture could easily be overlooked. But then she became ill. We are given no details of her illness. We know only that her body succumbed to the illness and she passed away. But Peter had recently healed a lame man in a nearby town, Lydda, and news of that miracle had reached Joppa. So the disciples sent men to bring Peter. What did they believe he would do? Did they really believe that he would raise Dorcas to life again? Well, he did, and the widows were exuberant. Dorcas may continue her ministry among them. So what are the lessons that we might learn from this story? On the surface, the most obvious lesson is the one that I remember from Sunday school, that the raising of Dorcas has demonstrated that Jesus has won victory even over death. Life can come to situations where it was not possible before Christ. Recently, as I read this story, a question came to me. The question is, what did Dorcas think of what happened to her? If you had the opportunity to interview Dorcas, say 5 years later, how would she recall the event? What would she have to share about her days of life following it? While we celebrate the story of her raising to life again, I think about this question: would you want to happen to you what happened to her? Christians often talk about the eternal reward that makes all of our struggles here on this earth worthwhile. We look forward to the greeting, "Well done, my faithful servant. Enter into the joy of the Lord," especially on days when our toil has really wearied us. A common expression we use towards those who have passed on is, "May they rest in peace." I don't personally know anyone that I'm aware that hopes to return to this same life again after experiencing death. I believe most look forward rather to a life of living with the Lord, where the sad memories and tears of our current life will be wiped away. So I think about the thoughts that might have gone through Dorcas's mind in the following days as she picked up once again her needle and thread or whatever materials she used to begin making garments again and serving the needs of the widows around her once more. Once again, she would fill her days with toil that would lead to tiredness. Again, she would participate in the grief and pain of the widows around her. And yet, she may have seen them as new opportunities to love and witness and serve. The passage inspires us to an appreciation of the life of service that Dorcas lived prior to her death. I have developed an even deeper appreciation for the heart of service that must have carried Dorcas through the remaining days of her life following her being raised to life again. Ultimately, her life pointed not to herself, but to the living Christ. And she inspires us that a life lived faithfully will have an impact on others. And even through suffering, our lives are deeply meaningful in God's hands. As I began working at this retirement community, I began to be even more keenly aware that all of us are on a journey that ends with our death on this earth. Some of us might be in a stage in life where death still seems the enemy, not welcome yet. But many, I am aware, have reached a stage where you are able to anticipate the ending of your life with acceptance and peace. Each person's journey is unique and personal, filled with meaning and stories. And I would share this morning that wherever you might find yourself in that journey, the witness of Dorcas' life inspires us to awaken each day with a sense of purpose, of submitting to the lordship of Christ over that day that is given to us. Choosing an attitude of submission to the Lord, trusting in His grace for the day, praying, extending grace and hope to others, and witnessing to the goodness of God by the life we choose to fulfill each day. None of us will fulfill this goal as perfectly as we might hope, but nonetheless it remains a goal that gives purpose to each day, just as I believe that Dorcas must have had a sustained sense of purpose for her days as God had determined them. She may have said with the Apostle Paul, "I have a desire to depart and be with Christ, which is better by far, but it is more vital for your sake that I remain in the body." And so she remained, faithful and serving. May we live in God's purpose for our life today. As Kathy played the song this morning, may our prayer be, "Lord, may you fill me that I might live today a living vessel of your love." Amen.